At this time, we're going to have our roll call by our treasurer, Dr. Rock.
Mrs. Gator,
Here.
Mrs. Moomin,
Here.
Mr. Freeman,
Here.
Mr. Roberts,
Here.
Miss Mitchell.
Here. We are all present and accounted for. If we could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. At this time, we are on item 1.3, and we are going to approve the agenda. But before we do so, Dr. Rock, Mr. Jolly, are there any items that are going to be added to or removed from tonight's agenda?
Oh, no, ma'am.
All right, board, any changes to the agenda?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
Hearing nothing. If I can please have a motion on the floor to approve item 1.3.
Madam Chair, I move item 1.3, approval of tonight's agenda for regular board meeting, May 25th, 2025.
Thank you.
22.
Thank you. May I have a second?
I second.
Thank you, ma'am. If there's no further discussion, Dr. Rock, can you please call the roll?
Mrs. Moomin,
Yes.
Mr. Freeman,
Yes.
Mrs. Gator,
Yes.
Mr. Roberts,
Yes.
Miss Mitchell.
Yes, motion passes 5-0. At this time, I need a motion on the floor to approve item 1.4, our meeting minutes. And it is going to be minutes for April 13th, 2022, our work session meeting, and April 27th, 2022, our regular meeting.
Madam Chair, I'd like to move item 1.4 on tonight's agenda, approval of the minutes for the following minutes that you had read.
Thank you. May I have a second?
I second.
Thank you, ma'am. It's been moved and properly seconded. Board, are there any discussion or comments about either of these minutes? Hearing nothing. Dr. Rock, can you please call the roll?
Mr. Freeman,
Yes.
Mrs. Moomin,
Yes.
Mrs. Gator,
Yes.
Mr. Roberts,
Yes.
Miss Mitchell.
Yes, motion passes 5-0. On to the next item is item 1.5. Dr. Rock, do we have any cards for public participation?
No, we did not.
Mr. Jolly, do we no emails?
No.
All righty. Well, again, for those that are listening in, we do welcome everyone to join us on this. We're going into summer hours after this meeting, but join us here at the Municipal Center for our board meetings at 6:30 in the evenings. The meetings are posted on our website, so we look forward to seeing you here. Next on the agenda is item 1.6, and I actually have a board report on the SALT leadership meeting that was hosted on May 5th. It kicked off the BLI conference in OSBA. Most of the members of the SALT leadership committee asked that the meeting be held virtually, so it was a plus for me because I was able to attend. And there were two main topics. Nicole Pisitani provided a legislative update pertaining to student achievement issues. Then we have Stuart McIntyre from the Ohio Federation of Teachers and Delia Rose Mariquin from Grand Valley Local Schools provided the team with a highlight of community learning centers, which is the item that's in your folders. There's an article. The community learning centers were really an interesting comment. The school district used Ester and ARP funds to host a full-service community school and by the U.S. Department of Education. These schools refer to public schools, and they're not to be confused with non-public community schools. And they work as in partnership with the local school district. They did a really high-level overview. They didn't go into a lot of detail, but I did provide Mr. Jolly with a little bit that I did have to see if the district might be interested in exploring these community learning centers. They gave kids that had a different type of need. It gave them more one-on-one hands-on approach to their learning in a smaller classroom. It kind of reminded you a little bit, maybe when we went down to I Promise, it reminded you a little bit of that because they have elements of that there: food needs, clothing needs, other needs. The one individual, Miss Mariquin, actually talked about a family of students, honestly, that had one remaining parent. That parent took sick, died suddenly, and how this community center worked with those kids to get them through the balance of the school year, providing their needs and helping them even as they moved into foster care. So it's a really interesting concept. I can't talk tonight. Concept, and I just thought it would be interesting to bring it back to the district to see if Mr. Jolly, see what he and his team thought about it. So that's basic, that's pretty much it. It wasn't a very long meeting. I did learn there are 2 meetings a year for the leadership team, one in the spring, and there'll be another one, I think, closer to Capitol Conference. So that was the update that I had. And again, I put the article, there were articles that were on PBS about the schools. There's also, if you Google the Grand Valley Community Learning Schools, they have a couple of videos that are really interesting to watch.
You said Grand Valley?
Grand Valley Local Schools. Yes, ma'am.
Madam Chair, in 2017 in Cincinnati, they took advantage of that opportunity for those community schools, and they did very well in Cincinnati. So I like to see it and read your article that,
Yeah, the article actually talks about the.
Cincinnati? Yeah, they did well, about 5 years ago.
Yeah, so it was interesting. It was really interesting. It's a very interesting kind of concept. It took, I promise, to a different level.
Didn't we talk about community schools when we first started looking at new buildings? It was something that we,
Yep.
were hoping to incorporate.
You're right, Mamie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We sure did.
And I think in our design at the elementary school, putting in the
Laundromat.
parent room, also the community room, also the laundry room were part of that mentality. And also in the new high school, looking at putting the Cleveland Clinic as part of that space, and the community room also. So we've attempted to try to bring some of that on in our new construction.
So it sounds like we just have to, maybe at some point have some discussions about expanding it, if we've got the capacity to do it, yeah. Thank you. That's
Yeah,
good
so I
report.
just wanted to share that. I felt good having an update. So that's it for me. We're gonna move to item 1.7, the superintendent's report. So Mr. Jolly, I'm handing the mic over to you.
Yes, tonight I want to see my time to 2 different entities. First off, Beyond the Field. This is a program this year that we partnered with Mr. Jarvis Gibson. Mr. Swift bought this program as a program to help our athletes, as a support for our athletes, and to help our athletes maintain their grades and improve and provide them opportunities to be prepared for college and beyond. So Mr. Swift and Mr. Gibson, if you can come up, this is his report for the year. And to provide you guys, and I did send a report to you this evening for you to review. And Mr. Gibson is just going to give an overview of the year, and Ms. Swift give an overview of how things transpired this school year.
Good evening, board.
Good evening.
Before Coach Gibson, as we all call him, in the building speaks, I just wanted to first thank you all for actually giving us the opportunity to have Beyond the Field in the school. For this first school year, it has been great. We've obviously, with anything implemented that's new, you have your ups and downs and things like that. But I think the last few months of the school year, I think we started to hit our stride in understanding what direction that we needed to go in with the program. But one thing that we've really learned with having Coach Gibson on the team is that we have a lot of different things in our district that we have to clean up. One of the things that we use, obviously, for our grading, to input grades and things is Infinite Campus. One of the things that I tried to do years ago was utilize Infinite Campus to kind of take a lot of pressure off of our teachers, our staff. I remember when I first started as athletic director, a lot of the staff had complaints regarding, eligibility cards, the week-to-week eligibility cards. A lot of times it was, it's taking a lot of class time away to get these grades. You may have 12 to 15 kids in class. So we use Infinite Campus to basically run grading reports. But some of the issues that we have been having is some of those grades aren't input into the system. So, with that, we kind of we try not to penalize kids for situations like that, but that's a situation that we have. So we've tried different creative things to try to get around that. We've done a good job with our students communicating, Coach Gibson communicating with staff and things like that. But that's a hurdle that we have, and it really, really came about once, Coach Gibson, he was able to kind of focus a lot on that, and he's seeing that. So that's a very big hurdle that I would like for us as a district to help improve, especially for the athletic side, the middle school and the high school, but really the high school, because, we see a lot with those kids on a day-to-day basis. So, but overall, I think Coach Gibson has done a phenomenal job, not only with the academic piece, but he's also, beyond the field is more than just grades. Obviously, he'll speak to that. He's had speakers. Mayor Sellers was even one of our speakers. One of my best friends, Bam Childress, a Warrensville guy, he actually came and speak. So we've had numerous people come and speak to our student athletes. So it's been a great experience, not only for the students, but myself as well. So this program has broadened my horizon as an athletic director. And again, I'm looking forward to the future with Beyond the Field, a part of our athletic program. So without further ado, Coach Gibbs.
Thanks, Coach Swift. Let me start off by saying good evening to everyone. I'm going to look down and read. This is like my fourth meeting of the day. I don't want to forget anything. So we forwarded the Beyond the Field Leadership and Development Academy year-end report last week. And it was our hope that each of you had an opportunity to review it. But as we walked in, I guess he didn't get it in his email, but we have it. So he's going to forward it to each one of you guys so you guys can see it. It's kind of lengthy. I think it's 12 pages. But we tried to give as much in-depth information as possible. But we appreciate the support given, especially with Coach Athletic Director Swift. We appreciate that we have been afforded office space, which is very critical, and access to the student records and transcripts. These accesses are imperative for our daily monitoring and support of the student athletes participating in the program. During the 7 months that we have been present in the building, we have developed a good understanding of the school's culture and operations as it pertains to the involvement of the program. We have established a review, reporting, and monitor system that has been received by both coaches and the student athletes. Although we have not gained 100% support, we have experienced positive progress each day. We know this is due to the increase of student visits to my office and conversations with the coaches, teachers, and administration. Although we did not operate for the full academic year, we were able to identify and confirm academic trends. There are student athletes that are very focused on achieving best grades possible, both in season and out of season. We were able to recognize some of them by providing rewards for their achievements. A few names: Tylen Bryant, Denero Logan, and Carolyn Washington. There are also student athletes that perform to meet sports eligibility standards. We were able to identify and regularly share academic information with Coach Swift and the prospective coaches to hopefully encourage these student athletes to perform at their best year round. It is too soon to know if this has been a change to this trend. Through our Mentoring Mondays component, we have been successful in both providing professional guests to speak to the student athletes about various careers and general development through experiences. We would also like to share that the Mentoring Mondays has also served as a means to increase the awareness of the Beyond the Field Leadership and Development Academy and the programming provided at Warrensville Heights High School. This awareness has helped to establish a community coalition of support for the student athletes by means of academic support services, scholarship opportunities, and potential internships and job opportunities. In closing, we would like to again thank you, and we are hoping that you will welcome us back in the fall of 2022 to continue to enhance the lives of the high school student athletes. And at that, I will open it up for questions if there are any.
Board, any questions?
Nope.
Madam Chair, I do want to thank Coach Gibson. Coach, I want to thank you for allowing me to speak to the scholars. One thing I seen in my hour with you guys and with our scholars was that it was discipline and respect. When I came in, most of them knew me, but I mean, they commanded your respect, and I think it's working with our athletes, especially the girl 10th graders. They seemed very engaged. They had a lot of questions for me, and they got a little raw with me, but I expected. So they like, Ms. Freeman, we want you to do this. You better go tell this board that. So I think it's a great program, and it just gives somebody else looking at, what you're doing and talking to them, because, in this day, our children need something like that they can talk to. And when they walked in the room, they know who you were, they knew me, but they opened up when you told them, ask them anything, and they just started drilling me.
Right.
So, I think it was a great program.
Thank you.
Great hour.
So at the end of the year, how many students do we have in your program right now?
Well, it It fluctuates because what we did this particular year, we only had the ones that were in season. So during the winters, because we started November 1st, so that time we had the boys basketball team, the wrestling team, and the cheerleaders. And then when we got into the spring, we had the softball team. There was no baseball this year, and the boys and girls track programs.
Okay. And how do we recruit? How do you recruit these kids?
I'm sorry.
I said, how do you recruit? What are you doing with?
Well, it's not a recruitment because all of the student athletes they have to be a part of the program as per Coach Swift.
Oh, okay. So you started what grade? 8th? Or?
No, that's interesting that you said that. This was only at the high school.
It was only at the high school?
Yes, but I remember you saying that when we first presented, and I will say this to you, Dr. Anthony didn't want me to say it. There was actually 7th and 8th graders that started coming over
Okay.
because the parents had older siblings, or they had older kids in the program
Okay.
and heard about what was going on, and they wanted help for their younger kids. So they made a call to me. I said, absolutely. So they started coming over and being
good.
part of the study tables.
Yeah, that was actually my question. What was the parental engagement and receipt of the program?
Here's what's interesting. There was not much parental participation, as if just like the same thing when it comes to parent-teacher conferences. Once Swift and I got on the same page of, if these kids keep having these Fs, we need to sit them down.
Right.
Right.
Once Swift set them down, literally his phone started ringing with parents calling and saying, hey, who is this Coach Gibson? Why can't my son participate?
Right.
But also the teachers start receiving phone calls saying, what do we need to do to get our grades up?
Okay, good.
And I will give you, one was Mr. Washington. He reached out to me and said, this particular parent I've been reaching out to from the beginning of the year. Never got a response back, never came to parent-teacher conference. But as soon as you guys got them down, the mom called me saying, hey, what do we need to do now?
Okay.
So that's when I said to Coach Swift, that's what it takes to get parents involved, sit them down more often.
That's right. Right, because sports aren't everything.
Correct.
They are a nice bridge for some children to get to college, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to go all the way.
Right.
And you've got to be a well-rounded student.
Correct.
So I'm glad to hear that. Sorry the kids were sat down, but I'm glad we had a positive outcome as a result of it.
Yep. Thanks.
And
So
thank you.
How often, I mean, did they just sit down for like 1 or 2 games or?
No,
Or
the way
was
it
it just
works,
kinda
the
like
way
a-
it works is that, and Swift and I, we go back and forth on this all the time. If they get an F or 2 Fs, they can't play or participate that game.
Okay.
And what the rule was is that every Monday we get a list of those names.
Okay.
I'll highlight anyone that had a D or F.
Okay.
I'll then send it to Coach Swift, who will then send it to the coaches. Once they see that their name is on that list, the coaches then, the kids it's mandatory that they have to come see me on a regular basis. We'll put things in place, put a program together to make sure, and I would tell you, and I've said this a number of times, 90% of the Fs are missing assignments. 90%, and I'm not joking, 90% are missing assignments.
I believe that.
And what I found out is that block scheduling, okay, so if a teacher teaches in block scheduling, they're not teaching for 90 minutes. They may teach for 30, 35, 40, but then they're giving the student athletes, or all of the students, opportunity to get their work done. Well, some decide to do their work and others do not. So the ones who's not doing their assignments, those are the ones who's coming up with missing assignments.
Oh, okay.
But once they come in the study table, that's what we look at. We go straight to missing assignments and we put a plan together to say, okay, if you have 6 missing assignments, by the time you get out of here, I need 2 or 3 of these done. By the time you come see me tomorrow, I need the other 2 or 3 done. And the kids who followed up and did those things, hence Tylen Bryant, because we all know how basketball works. It goes from one season to one quarter to the next quarter. He was ineligible. He only had a 1.7. Tylen Bryant came to see me every day like clockwork. He went from a 1.7 to a 2.7.
Oh, wonderful.
So that showed you that the program definitely is effective.
Very good.
Very good. Thank you again.
That is really
Another
great to hear.
thing,
Thank
Madam
you.
Chair, that question you asked was good because 2 of the 10th grade females, their best friends didn't play sports. And they asked that same question, like, Mr. Freeman, what if my girl didn't, because she sat in with her, she's like, we don't play sports. What is that board doing for us to come up with extra? And I know Superintendent Jolly's working on that, but that was a good question because they did have that question for me. What if I don't play sports? Are we going to have something like this open up?
They asked that of the board. You said they,
The
repeat that?
children, the two females, yeah, two different
When
females.
he came to speak,
Okay.
we opened the floor for questions, and that was one of the questions they posed to Mr. Freeman.
For two different females, two 10th graders.
Mhm.
So that is a question, like, what if I don't play sports? So,
And something that we added on to this is that we was lucky enough to receive 2 interns from Case Western Reserve. So they were actually there to assist the kids either in person and or virtually. Because some kids couldn't work virtually well, so they would come in actually in person. And the ones who could work virtually, they would also help them virtually as well outside of our normal days that we were having study tables.
Oh, okay.
So that helped out as well.
I like to hear that.
they were very respectful. I like that. So they came in and you guys, they shut up. So they were very respectful.
Yeah, we're really glad to have the program here.
Thank you.
Very glad to have it here. And study tables definitely work. So just
Yeah.
keep up the good work. And we're looking forward to seeing continued progress with our scholars as you guys move into our different sports, especially football, kicking off in the fall.
Right. And one thing I want to close with, it's in the report, but when Mayor Sellers came to speak, he kind of talked about summer interns for some of the student athletes. And he said that he had been working with Dr. Jolly, Mr. Jolly, to start bringing that back. And he
Okay.
said he was going to open up a couple of spots so some of our student athletes can get those jobs. So just want to throw that out there. Hopefully some of them can land those jobs. Because a lot of the student athletes need to work.
Right.
I will say, though, that those are real interviews. My son participated in it. He didn't get in the first year.
Okay.
And when he came out of the interview, his back was drenched in sweat because, I mean, he didn't expect them to ask the types of questions that they asked. So my point is, maybe we might want to do some type of interviewing skills
Well,
with these
that's
students.
part of Beyond the Field.
Okay, very
we
good.
We do those things.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Okay.
All right.
All right, thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Coach.
Coach.
Thank you so much.
Madam Chair, I think your son and Mimi's daughter participate in that summer internship for the city.
Yeah, my Jarrell, I think both kids were in. I know Jarrell was in from 9th grade all the way through college.
And Crystal was, wasn't she?
Crystal was in it. They just did an article on her
That's what I thought.
newspaper. Yeah.
Mr. Jolly? you
Yes,
ready?
next up, we have Miss Rubric with the STEAM.
Updates. All right. Good evening, board. How are you?
Good evening.
So we're going to go quickly over an overview of what we accomplished in STEAM this year, and it is Wednesday, May the 25th, 2022. We worked with a consultant and created a strategic plan for STEAM. And in that strategic plan for this year, we identified 3 priorities. Our first priority was to enable STEAM exposure and access in grades K to 12 to provide additional modalities of learning and interventions for possible learning lost due to the pandemic. One of the first things we did was we had a grand opening of the Ed Chambers Innovation Center. When that center was open at the Warrensville Heights Elementary School, it allowed all scholars K to 5 to participate in the makerspace. It was embedded in their schedule. They went twice a month, which was led by an instructor and did hands-on activities in that space. The Innovation Lab also provided professional development for our teachers. There was after-school professional development, and actually the professional development just ended this spring. And we also developed a program for STEAM ambassadors, where we had student leaders from grades 3 all the way through 12. So the STEAM ambassadors actually went through ambassador training. They did leadership skills, they learned how to work with a team together, and then from there, they provided help and assistance, not only with the STEAM fair, but with our Career Tech and Education fair during the CTE month. So priority number 2, design a structured STEAM model for grades 7 through 12. So we started with our grades 6 through 8, really intentional. This beginning of this school year, we implemented CT and STEAM courses inside of our 6th through 8th grade. So grades 6 through 8 were involved in STEAM courses, which was Project Lead the Way, which actually falls under our Career Tech Education programming for grades for middle schoolers. And we also had this year a Career Tech Exposure Fair. where the actual career tech programs, such as our graphic arts, our fire program, our biomedical program, went down to the middle school for a day of exposure, where our middle schoolers had a hands-on opportunity to actually learn about the different programs, ask questions of their scholars and their peers. Our STEAM ambassadors were also involved in assisting in that program. Priority number 3 was to expand family access and community engagement in STEAM initiatives across grades K to 12. We did something different this year. We actually had school level and a district level STEAM fair. So what the school level STEAM fair did was gave actual opportunity for the students to compete at the school level. During the class, when they were all given each, and we did it through the science courses and our career tech courses. So the science teachers were actually giving scholars assignments for them to present on, to do research. Just, the old school science fair. But what it did is gave them an opportunity to really see how they can, the two skills that we concentrate on was presentation and verbal presentation. So what their work looked like and how they can speak to their work. So those were the two areas we concentrated on. And then from the school level, 3 winners per grade level were identified, and then we had the STEAM level fair. The part where the community engagement and the family engagement come in, because when your child is presenting and the things, in those type of stages, families come out. And that evening, our families came out. And the projects were also sent home. So there was a family component there too, where families had to work together, get the scholars ready for this fair. So we really did see an increase in our parent participation. And also partner with our district parent involvement specialists and our culture coaches. They made a really big impact on spreading the word and involving our scholars and in our team with STEM education. We had district-wide resources where we did the makerspace. We implemented the Gateway to Pre-Engineering program at the middle school. Our high school, we did biomedical, and we also have a computer science program partnership. Our career tech education program, and our advisor and community partners. From those advisor and community partners, we were able to harness, or we were able to acquire dollars and scholarships from there. Jonathan, the next. So this year alone, we were awarded quite a bit of dollars. Timken is an organization supporting STEM education, which awarded us $1,000. And those $1,000 went to support Mr. Roberts' class at the elementary school. Case Western Reserve dollars were used those funds were used directly to support the STEM fair at the middle school. Then NASA supported our high school clubs, and our $5,000 from the Ohio STEM Leader Network supported the STEAM fair from pre-K all the way through 5 at the elementary. We were able to provide all of the schools with all of the resources and materials that they needed, from boards to paper to each and every experiment that was done. So those dollars went to work in that way. Last July, we came to you and we talked about the dashboard. And the dashboard is moving full steam ahead. So that was our dashboard last July 2021. And the goal was to make STEM education equitable for all. We identified all the areas where STEM education is, from science all the way through family engagement. And as you can see, our green was where we saw was equitable. Our yellow was, we need to do some work, and our bluish just wasn't happening, just in small spurts. And just proud to say that we did have movement this year. Our next one, we're now at May. Jonathan, the next one, please. So here in May of 2022, you can see where we had some color changes. So our STEAM fair for our engineering design went from blue to yellow. And that happened due to doing the the school level STEAM fair. What we were finding out with the district level STEAM fair, we had participation, but we had the same participation. The same families would come out. When we did it at the school level, we actually found out that, doing it into the classrooms, that more scholars were involved. So it's not green yet. We still have more work to do. And with adding those courses at the middle school, gave that an opportunity to expose more scholars. And as you can see, for our career readiness, we went to yellow there when we did our career fair, making our scholars more aware of what the programs are. And our programs and our career tech programs are really heavy STEM related careers. So having them exposed in that way. And I have this, you guys, I could share this with you. So our plans for next year, so as we continue to move forward and move our priorities forward, we will be adopting and using NSBE Junior. NSBE is the National Society of Black Engineers. They have a curriculum that we will be using in our Innovation Center at the elementary school. Also going with FIRST Robotics Legos. We will have the Makers Fair. And then at the 6th through 8th grade level, we would do an intentional speaker series around career awareness. And our partners and our STEAM advisory, when we met this year, we have 2 meetings. That was one of the charges that they will commit to being a part of the speaker series and adding their talents and sharing with our scholars. And that's it for right now. The last page to show our district STEAM plan is still growing. It's still available on the website for you to look at, and I can give you, send you all a link that you can access it also. So if you have any questions at this time.
Madam Chair, I just want to say, Ms. Ray.
Oh,
I'm
yes,
sorry.
someone had a question.
Where we going?
I didn't see nobody raise their hand.
Simple, 2 simple questions.
Okay.
Well, first one's pretty simple. What is PLTW? I kept seeing.
Thank you. Project Lead the Way. Project Lead the Way is a pre-engineering program that is supported by the state of Ohio. That's the curriculum we use for our engineering programs.
Okay. And then the other thing I wanted to ask is when you talked about the blue, I was trying to jot it down as to what the blue meant. It said increased, well, it's not available to select students and or I think it said grade levels. So
Yeah.
is there a plan to kind of increase?
Yes, that's it. That's actually it. That's why we identified those priorities.
Okay.
So we looked at what was blue, what was yellow, what was green. And from those we developed those priorities to say, like, how do we hit all scholars? So the first one was to actually implement the changes. So yes. So as the years go by, as you can see, from last July to May, we did have some color. I can share it with you.
Yeah. No, I was
Oh, okay.
looking at that. I
Okay.
was impressed with,
So,
you know, how you guys did.
Yes, and
increase.
then also with our curriculum adoptions, that also has helped. I mean, last year we adopted Inspire Science. We actually was able to pull right from that curriculum and use it inside of our makerspace at the high school around the careers in STEM. So really just using the our tier 1 resources, you know, that all scholars have access to make sure that they have access to being able to ultimately participate in affairs and, you know, and develop these skills and have these opportunities for all students and families.
I'm sorry I couldn't make it. It sounds like it was a really good program. And it sounds like you guys are doing really well.
Thank you, I
Thank you.
appreciate it. That's good. Any other questions?
I just want to commend you and your staff. I had a chance to participate. It was really active. Our scholars was very engaged in their project.
Yeah.
And for them to spend the time and, you know, walk you through it, I mean, all your staff always knock it out, but I want to just say kudos to them.
Well, we appreciate it. And we really saw where our strengths and our weaknesses are. So we really have our work cut out for us, so we're ready for it. All right, thank you.
I just have a comment. I was at the STEAM fair at the high school, and I was so impressed with the enthusiasm that our young people had with their project. I mean, one of the little scholars, I mean, she went through her whole presentation to me.
Right.
And I just think this is an excellent program. And Ms. Ray, you are doing a fantastic job, and I think we have to say that a lot to our staff when they are going above and beyond to make sure that our scholars are prepared. And you are doing that. And I want to say thank you.
I appreciate
I
that.
enjoyed the whole thing from the band to the choir. I mean, we got some very talented young people
We do.
in
really do.
Warrensville.
Yeah, we're giving a platform. But I appreciate you, the board, for supporting us, our team, in this work and these endeavors. So we really appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Thank you
All
so
right, you're
much.
welcome. Thank you.
So that concludes my report. I succeeded my time to them. So next up is Dr. Rock.
Thank you so much. It was a really great report, good information that was shared by all. We're going to move over to item 1.8, and Dr. Rock, we're going to hand the mic over to you.
Thank you.
Okay. So every November and May, we have a 5-year forecast that we report to the Ohio Department of Education. The May 5-year forecast is due every November and May. It provides 3 years of historical financial information and 5 years of projections. Next slide. Overall 5 financial facts takeaway from our 5-year forecast for May 2022 is the first one is all 5 years are funded, and that you can see in line 15.010. The next important financial fact is that this is the 12th consecutive year that the school district has spent within current resources, which is fantastic news, and this is how we control our own destiny on our budgets. The third one is that the Ester spending plan is included in the 5-year forecast, and you'll see that in some future slides that we're going to cover. The fourth fact is that the emergency levy will be up for renewal in fiscal year 2026. So that's 5 years from now. We just it's a 5-year plan where it's up for renewal every 5 years, and that's the only levy on our coffers that needs to be renewed. And then the last one is we are in compliance with the district spending plan in regards to spending within current resources. Next slide, please. So this slide is about the impact of the Ester spending plan and how this factors into the 5-year forecast. So the Ester funds is $14.5 million that are granted to the district, and these are due from the federal government, and it's due to the pandemic that we're going through. The district submits the budgets and expenditures for reimbursement, and the primary purpose of the funds is to address student learning loss due to the pandemic, enrichment, safety, preparation of clean and safe buildings, and expenditures caused by the pandemic. This is one time where we're actually getting a grant that is not so restricted on just one program or one type of thing like a Title I grant. This is very broad, and it's very flexible for each district to spend as they find a way to address the spending of the funds that they're getting from the federal government. For the next slide. So the impact of the Ester funding, you can see this on the 5-year forecast. In the revenue section at line 2.06, you could see that increased $3 million. And this is due to the fact that on the Ester funds, this is the first time ever that we have retro funding. And it goes back to March 21st of 2020, which was the first day after the pandemic was declared by the governments in the state and everything. That's the first day. So we're able to go back to March 21st of 2020, submit those expenditures for reimbursement from the state. Well, from the federal, and using this federal grant to pay for that. So that's one thing. The next line, cost of personnel, you can see that it decreased substantially because we're moving those costs onto the Ester for staff. Also, purchase services, you can see that decreases, and that's due to the expenditures moving to Ester grants. And same thing with supplies. And the net increase in revenue and decreases in expenditures creates a substantial excess in line 6.01, which is spending within current resources. So you have all that retroactive adjustments also going through, and that's flowing through the 5-year forecast too. So the accumulated carryover balance will be utilized for finance payments for the new early childhood center, maximization of investments for interest revenue to counterbalance the cost of finance, and to preserve a conservative cash flow for the district. And again, all of this spending is going on to the Ester grants. Next slide. Other items to note in the 5-year forecast is the new state funding formula. We're completing our first year on that. You notice that in unrestricted revenue, this is where state funding is normally reported. You can see that that's decreased, and that's decreased because we're only being funded for the students that actually attend the district. Before, on the old formula, we were like a conduit. They would fund us for all of the students, no matter if they were coming here or going to community schools or going elsewhere, and they'd give us the revenue, and then right in the expenditures, they take out the deduction. So both of those things are gone now. So you'll notice that purchase services also decreased a substantial amount also. So now with the new state funding formula, we're just funded on students that are attending the district, which is a great win for school finance, because that was just such a distorted area for districts to explain to their taxpayers and their school community. Real estate tax revenue and state funding still are the two major revenue items for the district at 86%. Wages and benefits are 71% of total expenditures, purchase services 21%, and the Ester funding ends September 30th, 2024. So we have to have everything spent by then. Other revenue includes tax abatement revenue and interest revenue. This is becoming a stable revenue stream for us. The good news is also interest rates are bumping up now. So now we're going to see interest revenue starting to return. I don't know, it's not going to return to what we were getting before in the past, where we were getting a lot of 3% investments and 4%. It's going towards that line item. So now we're going to see a bump in interest revenue because we have more to invest, and interest rates are rising now. And the Amazon revenue sharing, I'm happy to report it's collecting at full taxable rate. And someone will say, well, what does that mean? So with Amazon, we did a tax abatement with them, and in lieu of the tax, in collecting taxes, we were sharing the revenue that the city North Randall was collecting in income taxes. Mm-hmm. So they were sharing the revenue with us. Now, when we have that kind of an abatement, there's a maximum. We can never collect more than what the original tax value of the property would collect. We are collecting at 100%. So it's just the money is just coming from a different source, but we're getting exactly what we would have gotten if the building was not tax abated, which is fantastic news for us. And I think that's something pretty rare that happens with school districts. I mean, they always design the tax abatement and revenue sharing agreements to hold districts harmless, but usually there's some time to where it builds up, or it's towards the end, or you land somewhere where you're held harmless. But this, we're held harmless now, and this is the third year of the agreement. So that's real good news for us. Next slide. So now back to the Ester spending. We have reimbursement of expenditures retroactive to March 21st of 2020. It's $3.3 million that's going back that far. Just some highlights, and you have the plan with the details on every dollar that's being spent. Some of the highlights are hotspots and the Chromebook program, custodial security transportation services that were during the online program. So that covers to January of 2021, where we were doing, we were delivering food, utilizing the transportation. We were doing the extra cleaning. It was when all the online program was on. Virtual graduations, COVID expenditures. And then also in the Ester spending plan is current school year and thereafter. This is where a lot of the meat and potatoes of more of the spending, and this is in staff related, and it's related to learning loss program, where each scholar has a return to school plan, preservation of the teacher to scholar ratio, increase of teacher to scholar ratio, where we also hired more staff to increase the ratio for when the scholars were coming back to school after the online learning, custodial cleaning and security maintenance of social distancing, administration management of the learning loss programs. Now, with all of this, there's a 20% minimum set aside that's required in the ESSER funds. And for us, that would be $2 million. But you can see for us, we are well above that at $7.2 million. So we're pointing a lot of the ESSER spending to learning loss and addressing that directly into the educational program. And this is all in coordination with Mr. Jolly and all the programs that we have out there. Next slide. So this is the Treasurer's Office Financial Horizon. Next meeting, we will have the year-end appropriations and amended certificate of resources. We will also have the temporary appropriations up for approval next meeting. And then also the certificates of participation deal. This is for the new early childhood learning program. That deal and pricing and sale will be June 8th, and the proceeds will come in before the end of June. This last slide is probably the greatest. The last sentence is just really a great summary for where we're going with our leadership here, and it's just great to hear this. This is from Moody's rating for investors. So when we go to sell our bonds to investors, you need a Moody's rating. And I don't know if sometimes you listen to the business news on TV and they'll say, well, those are junk bonds, or those are bonds that are rated AAA. You know, that's how they rate you. And with that rating, then that's how investors decide to buy those bonds that we need to put up the buildings. So anyways, we got our rating today, and they affirmed our A1 rating. And then when we do certificates of participation, it's always one step below because it's a different type of finance. And we stayed at A2. So these are our existing ratings. But the greatest thing that they noted two strengths that we have, and we all know we had great voter approval with the 77% passage when we had our bond levy. But the last sentence, a very healthy fund balance supported by prudent financial policies. This is Moody's investors telling us that we have prudent financial policies. So this is like the greatest compliment that we can get. And then that concludes my section.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rock. Very thorough report. Board, are there any questions before we move into the potatoes of the meeting? All right. Well, let's move on in. We are moving to item 2. If I can have a motion on the floor to approve by consent. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, we have one more presentation, the PBIS presentation. I'm
Oh.
sorry.
Oh,
Yep, they're here.
we've got 2.
Don't
We've
we
got
have the
math
math?
and.
Yeah, math and
I do
PBIS.
apologize.
Yep.
I skipped right to section 2.
Okay.
We're at item 1.9. We've got a presentation for math adoption.
About our math curriculum adoption. So with our curriculum team, we have Elizabeth Couture is our 6 through 12 math specialist. We also have Ms. Jessica Sullivan is our 2nd grade teacher, and then Ms. Pebble Dickerson is our 4th grade science and math teacher as well. So we're going to share with you our adoption process and what we learned from that. Next slide. So we started the process in the beginning of the year. The first semester, we approached the classroom teachers and we asked them, what math recommendations do you have for math curriculums? What do you want to see? What have you heard from other teachers has been working? And we got their recommendations. So then from those recommendations, we took them back and we looked at Ed Reports. So Ed Reports is a website that evaluates different programs, and it evaluates them to make sure that they align to the standards, and then also evaluates the materials for quality. So we wanted to make sure that what our teachers want was also kind of had some credibility to it as well. So we looked at that. And then from there, we contacted the curriculum companies and got samples in all the grade levels that we were doing. This is an adoption that we are doing 6th through 12th grade. And then we also formed committees. So we wanted to make sure that we had representations from all the grade levels because we needed to make sure that all voices were heard. So at the elementary level, we had about 15 teachers and admin. And then we had Ms. Newman was also on our adoption committee as well, in addition to the curriculum department. And the purpose of having that adoption committee is so that way the grade levels voices were heard, because if we get a curriculum that they don't like or they didn't have buy-in to, they're not going to use it, you know, and then everybody is using something different. But we need commonalities between all of our grade levels so that way we can move our scores forward and students get what they need to know in math too, or in any contact area. So and it was really known to this committee that they're working as the liaison between their grade level teams and our committee. So what we discuss at our committee meetings, they go back and they discuss at their grade level teams, and it's a back and forth, and we get the feedback and they get the feedback. So from there, we then, the grade levels took the samples and they reviewed all the materials, which Ms. Sullivan's going to talk to us next about. And then they also we used a math adoption rubric. So they filled out the rubric for each of the curriculums that we reviewed. And then we looked at that rubric for each grade level. And I think we had 5 programs coming in, and then we narrowed it down to 3, and those vendors came through and they did presentations. So after the teachers used this materials with their students, they came back with questions. We asked those questions during those vendor presentations. And then from there, we met again as a committee. They pulled their grade levels, and they decided which curriculum they felt was going to be best for our students at this time. And then Ms. Dickerson's going to actually talk about that. So that was kind of the process that we took for the adoption. Next slide.
All right. Good evening. My name is Jessica Sullivan. As Ms. Lozar mentioned, I teach 2nd grade. So like she said, my role was really just to relay the information from the committee to the 2nd grade team, and then bring my grade levels feedback back to the committee. So when we first had all of the samples, we tried to go through one sample box each week. So we looked through all the boxes. We looked at the sequence of each curriculum. We made sure to see if the curriculums provided spiral review, because that's something we know our kids really need. We looked to make sure it covered all the standards that were important in our scope and sequence. We looked at the layout of the student workbook pages to make sure it had like some good graphics, it had enough guided practice for the students. We looked through the teacher's manual. We looked at all the extra resources, like if there was manipulatives, if they had like reteach and small group resources. And then we also had the links to access the online components of each curriculum. That we use a lot of online features in class, so it was nice to be able to see what that looks like, so students could do assignments online. We could show little presentations to introduce the lesson online. So we looked at all those components, and I kind of recorded the notes. And like Ms. Lozar said, we had a survey for each one. So we filled out the survey for each one and picked our top 2 choices. And then we also pulled pages from each curriculum to actually start using and trying out in class. We were working in 2nd grade on 2-digit addition and subtraction, as well as story problems during that time. So we pulled pages from each curriculum so that we could like try each one out. And then we had a discussion about what went well, what we didn't love. And we included that also in our decision on which ones that we liked. So again, we did our final vote at the end and voted for our top choice as a team. But the whole time it was really just a collaborative discussion between our grade level, and then at our committee meetings, we got to hear the feedback from the other grade levels as well. So it was great. It was really nice to be able to preview these curriculums and try them out. Yeah. That was it. Okay.
I'm Pbis Dickerson. I teach 4th grade math. So once the survey was completed by all of the teams, it was 5 out of 6 teams that decided to go with the iReady math. One of the reasons is that we already use iReady. We use that for our universal screener. So we utilize that in the fall, in the winter, and the spring to see how the kids are progressing. So we're already familiar with iReady. So that was one of the reasons why we were comfortable saying, we're already familiar with it. The scholars are familiar with it. The parents are familiar with it. So we use that for our choice. The one grade level that did not choose it as their first choice, it actually was their second choice. So it was still in the top 2. So some of the pros of iReady I just mentioned, it aligns with what we already use for our universal screener. The majority of our staff and students are already familiar with it. Our families are familiar with it. The familiar vocabulary that they have with iReady is going to help as we have students that come from other districts, because if they use it as well, they'll understand how to use it. We won't have to show them how to use it. Also, it will help with any staff training because our staff is mostly trained on it. So we want anybody that's coming back, we won't have to train them again. Building vocabulary at the end of each unit is very important, at the beginning of each unit also. And it correlates with the explicit instruction. We've been doing that a lot with our reading. So this curriculum that I read also correlates with that explicit instruction as well. The small group differentiation is not only provides intervention, but also enrichment. So the enrichment as well. And as I looked at the lessons as well, they're very well thought out. And I mean, I'm not a person that likes scripted lessons, but it's nice to have it just to know what to say. What should we expect? What should we expect the scholars to say? I also looked at the videos because they have videos available for the parents to look at as well, which is very important because with a lot of the math we do now, the parents are always saying, I don't know how to do this. So we can send that out to the parents so they'll be able to utilize it as well. So it was really our top choice. We made a decision as a grade, actually as an elementary building that this one was the right one for us.
That's awesome.
Hello, I'm Elizabeth Couture. I'm the secondary math instructional specialist. In the last approximately 5 years, there has been a distinct shift in the way that we instruct mathematics. And we have gone from just a traditional memorizing our algorithms and our calculations into more of seeing math as a dynamic set of problem solving. And this is evident in the 8 standards for mathematical practices. Now, our middle school actually had the opportunity to pilot Reveal Mathematics this year. Reveal Math really provided the opportunity for our students to engage in the problem solving. And we were actually able to be afforded the opportunity to see our OST data results from that already. In 6th grade, we had a 13% increase of proficiency from last year to this year. 7th grade is a 9% increase, and 8th grade is a 5% increase. And as we know that our district goal is at least a 7% increase, so 2 of our 3 grade levels at the middle school were able to achieve that increase in proficiency on OST. Reveal Math is combined with our intervention program that we utilized this year, and both programs were able to provide tiered intervention pathways for teachers to more readily meet the individual student needs, specifically on prerequisite skills, while also addressing the grade level specific standards. We were able to see typical growth on our STAR data going from each of our grade levels from our winter universal screener to our spring universal screener. 6th grade, 59% increase of growth, 7th and 8th grade, 71% increase of growth. So our middle school math team determined that Reveal was the primary cause of those increases in both our growth and our OST data, and they have opted to continue that that curriculum with the math adoption for next year. Next slide, please. The high school has opted instead for a 1-year pilot of Envision Mathematics. Envision is providing, similar to Reveal, integrated and tiered intervention support for our students. But they have decided to go with a 1-year pilot to really determine if that is going to be the program that is most beneficial for our students in algebra, geometry, and algebra 2, or if we're going to go with Reveal after that in order to promote the consistency between 6 through 8 up into the high school. Are there any questions at this time?
I actually have a question, but I think she answered it. So if the kids the scholars in 6 to 8 are in Reveal and was in Envision, how, as they matriculate between the middle and the high school, are there going to be bridges that will help both the students, the parents, and the educators?
Yes, so part of what my goal is to help promote those bridges. I am working on building a curriculum map that no matter what program we end up using at any
any level, we will be able to see the consistency from one grade level to the next, the prerequisite skills, the grade level skills, and the next tier level skills. And so that curriculum map will be available. My goal is by August of next year.
Okay.
So that will be available to everybody. And that is that gap that you are talking about to ensure that that our students are receiving the consistent instruction, strategies and methods, even though they may not have the same curriculum.
Thank you. Any other questions, board?
Chair, we have a question for Ms. Logo. Our scholars now, what percentage are we using virtual math? Do we have any scholars?
For on our online programs, I feel like at the elementary, the number of students is very limited. We don't have too many, probably less than 10 students, would you say, Mr. Jolly? Yeah.
Thank you, teachers who's teaching the same thing. You know, oftentimes you see here that's totally different from what another teacher is doing. And I think it's just refreshing that they all on the same page. Let me ask you this. How many other district is on iReady? Do you know?
So a lot of our surrounding districts use iReady as a universal screener.
Okay.
So when we look at it, it produces, so there's two parts of iReady. We've been using iReady, the online platform, since we walked into the district 7 years ago.
Okay.
So that allows for them to take that universal screener, so that initial screener, it puts them on pathways based on how they respond to the questions, right? So depending on their level. So they just recently came out with this iReady mathematics classrooms. So that language that the teachers were talking about, so that consistency is there. We did reach out, and there were a few districts that are in like Northeast Ohio that currently use the iReady curriculum, which we do have their information, so we can kind of talk to them and see what obstacles did you encounter the first year, so that way we can try to avoid those obstacles, and then move past that. So, but most of the districts around us use that universal screener, so that's why we said, like, when they come from maybe Maple or Bedford, they're familiar with the online piece of it, so that language will be consistent then when they're getting their math instruction too.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. All right, next on our agenda is item 1.0. We have the PBIS elementary school presentation.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you so much for allowing us to present you on our PBIS. It's very exciting. I'm just going to take a few minutes and tell you about what we did at the district level, and then you're going to hear from the elementary team, which really boots on the ground did an amazing job implementing the tier 1 level of PBIS this year. So I am Malki Dim. I am the special education specialist here at the district, and I'm also the PBIS district lead, and I am very excited. Okay, next slide. So this is House Bill 318, and it was enacted in November of 2018. And essentially, it mandates that all buildings, schools implement and install PBIS in their buildings. And it does this on the premise of recognizing the need for positive climate in every school to support students' well-being, academic achievement, and future success. It's based on evidence-based practices that have shown to have very significant positive outcomes for students and for the staff as well. For the upcoming school year, the 22-23 school year, the Department of Education has outlined a level of implementation for being able to check yes on the report card for PBIS implementation. And for next year, we'll have to implement all 3 tiers of support. And this year we have established a really robust tier 1 level of support. So we'll look at that in a second. This is the PBIS pyramid. It essentially outlines the hierarchy of interventions and expectations for students and interventions. The PBIS essentially establishes positive expectations for students and teaches behaviors that we want to see the students do. It establishes classroom expectations that are aligned with the school-wide expectations, a continuum of procedures for encouraging those expected behaviors and reinforcing them, a continuum of procedures for discouraging problem behaviors, and procedures for encouraging school and family partnerships. This is our team. The development of this team essentially began in 2019 under Dr. Kaver, and then for the 2021 school year, we met on a regular basis, and we created this Tier 1 level of support for the district, and we continue to meet regularly this year. It is comprised of administration, a family liaison, we have teachers, support staff, and then we also have our liaison from the Educational Service Center, Ms. Sharon Sanders. So in establishing these expectations, we wanted to take a step back because all the buildings were implementing some basic level of PBIS, but we wanted those expectations to be universal across all the buildings. What we were hearing from the special education department when we were dealing with some behavioral issues, that the expectations were different in the different buildings. So we wanted these to transition with the students as they move on to the different buildings so that there was just to alleviate any confusion and to make it universal. And then this is our PRIDE acronym. These are the expectations that were determined from our PBIS district team. And those are personal responsibility, respect, integrity, discipline, and engagement. And you'll have the stuff on that from the elementary. When we establish those expectations, again, we want to encourage the students with what to do as opposed to what not to do. Slide. This is one of our matrices, and it establishes the expectations in each location of the building and then what it would look like to meet those expectations. So we outline different behaviors that we expect the students to see in order to, for example, meet that personal responsibility. Slide. These are the signs. I'm sure if you've walked through the building, you've seen some of our signs. They are, again, universal. You'll see the same ones at the high school that you see at the elementary. And it just makes it clear for the students what do they need to do in order to meet those expectations. And then when we do see the students meeting those expectations, we reinforce that behavior. Next slide. And then to monitor our behavior and support and our intervention, this year we adopted Branching Minds, which is a program that not only allows us to monitor academic supports, but also the behavioral. And when we log incidents, we're able to monitor all different aspects of those behavioral incidents, such as the location, what interventions were used, what were the outcomes, and it gives us a lot of really good data to make decisions in the future. One more. And, okay, this is exciting. So the Ohio PBIS Network, in connection with the Educational Service Center, they recognize different schools based on their level of PBIS implementation, and our district, along with the elementary and our middle school, have all applied for this recognition because we met the requirements to do that. The high school also made a tremendous amount of growth and met the requirements. They didn't quite apply for the recognition, but each team works at their own pace. And so we're really proud of all of the hard work that the team has done, all the different teams have done together.
Good evening.
Good evening.
All right, I will be presenting with Ms. Shaw and Dr. Bruce for Warrensville Heights Elementary School. Next slide. So this is the fabulous Warrensville Heights Elementary School team who persevered through this year and got our PBIS rolling for our scholars. We have Dr. Bruce, Ms. LaHood, Ms. Deal, Mr. Freeble, Ms. Peoples, Ms. Finch, myself, Ms. Shaw, Coach Shaw, Mr. Atkinson, and Ms. Reeves. So this was a fabulous team to work with this year, and they worked very hard. Next slide. So what do we do to get things started at the elementary school? We had a pep rally. And at the beginning of the school year, we had our two different administrators, Ms. Thompson, myself for pre-K, first grade, Ms. Bishop and Miss Shaw for 2nd through 5th grade. So we had a welcome, we told the scholars what PBIS was, we had our incentives, and we had our pledge. We had the mascot there, and this picture is of K1 scholars, so that's a lot. So we did 3 separate pep rallies because we have so many scholars there.
Right.
And Ms. Dim already went over what PRIDE stands for: personal responsibility, respect, integrity, discipline, and engagement. So you have to have incentives for PBIS, especially at the elementary level. So these are just a few incentives that we have for this year, that the team brainstormed some names for our incentives. So snacks with security, cultures and cupcakes, cotton candy with the counselors, candy with Caver, story time with Miss Smith, pizza with Paris. So we didn't do all of these, we did most of them. At the bottom is a pride note. That is what was sent home with scholars who just had an awesome day, and the teacher wanted to let the parent know, like, your child rocked it out, and sent the note home. We had the yellow ones, paw bucks, $100 paw bucks. They change every month for color, so people wouldn't try to hold on to them and reuse them. And those went to the classrooms who were caught showing their pride. So they can be given by any staff member other than a teacher, Mr. Jolly, Dr. Caver, Ms. Lozar, others, board members, community members, not community members, but people who worked in the district that came into the school were able to pass out paw bucks. And of course, the dollars, which were given to the scholars all the time when they were caught exhibiting pride. So our Tiger Pledge, we say this every morning. Everybody knows it. The staff knows it. The teacher knows it. Everybody knows it. With this one, at the bottom, it says roar. So after we had our kickoff, we had a TFI, which is a tiered fidelity inventory. And from that TFI, we had to change roar to pride to be consistent with the district, like Ms. Dim was speaking on earlier. Next slide. And of course, what are you going to do with all those paw bucks you get? You're going to go shop. So this is our paw marks that our principal, Ms. Thompson, shopped for, Ms. Shaw shopped for, and submitted all their receipts because we have so many scholars who were earning those paw bucks and spending that money. And that's a picture of our cultures, selling the items, and the kids counting out their paw bucks and buying the items from the paw mart. Next slide. So next we did, and I have Ms. Shaw coming up.
Okay, so next, after we got back from winter break, we had to have a refresher. So we had Warrensville Heights Elementary School winter rally to review our expectations.
I don't think we're going to see it regardless.
Well, what he was clicking on, so we had a pep rally, and we had, we wanted to make it drumline themed, so we had marching band music and pom-poms and things. Okay, so this is one of our slides from our presentation for the students. We've reached the halfway point in the year. Great job. So this one was a big celebration. Next slide. Okay, so we had the marching band music for all of the students, but we did something special for our 5th grade. We had the marching band come over and perform for them. So we got them up, got them excited. We had our pom-poms and our big foam hands. And so it was a great time. We got them real excited for PBIS. Next slide. And so what we did was we asked the teachers to submit names of scholars who show Tiger Pride all the time and who also have improved since the beginning of the year. Next slide. As you can see, here are some of our scholars who have won a Pride All-Star Award. So we took pictures of them. It was a big celebration. So that's one of our 5th grade scholars and then also a 1st grade scholar. Next slide. We also sent a survey to our parents. We asked our parents to submit names of teachers and staff who show Tiger Pride every day. And these are the teachers and staff that they submitted. Next slide, please. So we made sure to celebrate them as well. We took lots of pictures, and then our students celebrated their teachers. Next slide. So in order to sear Tiger Pride instead of Tiger Roar into our students' minds, Mr. Freeble one of our fifth grade teachers wrote a song. And so if you can play the song for us. This is just a rough draft, but he did end up performing this for our fifth graders at one of the assemblies.
P, the D, to show respect with some integrity. I'm disciplined, I am engaged. I show my pride each and every day. P. R-I-D-E, yeah.
That's cute.
That was good.
So the students absolutely love that.
I can imagine.
Next slide, please.
P.
And at WHES, we love PBIS. So in that picture, we have our two culture coaches, and we have Ms. Smith, who's our parent liaison. And we really, this was the first time we really turned our incentives into a store for the older students. So Paul Mart was a big deal. Students came downstairs with their money in hand, counted out in denominations of fives, and they really got to shop like they were at a store. So this is a big deal. And I know Dr. Rock is sick of me. I submitted a lot of receipts to stock the store, but it was really good for our students. Next slide, please. All right, so we continue to focus on pride, and we really tried to implement PBIS Tier 1. That means supports for the entire student body this year. In the past, it's been kind of hot and cold. We didn't have buy-in from everyone, but this year we really focused on it at every single staff meeting. We talked about different behavioral supports that teachers can practice right in their classrooms, and it was much more successful. So here are some of the things that we put into place to provide an extra layer of support for some of our students. So we had lunch bunches with our counselors and our social workers for third graders, fourth and fifth grade. That happened during lunch and recess, where they sit and eat lunch together, talk about social skills. And then for fourth grade, they needed some more support. So we made sure to implement Fun Fridays for the students who showed Tiger Pride all week. Next slide, please. Now, one of our big incentives was a dance. We decided when we had one of our meetings to have kind of like a rave. So we're like, ooh, let's go to the dollar store and get a bunch of glow sticks. So we got glow sticks, we got glow necklaces, bracelets, turned the lights on, and had a glow party. So here's a video from our glow party in the fall. So we also posted this on our class dojo so that the parents the incentives. Next slide, please. Oh.
Hello, everybody. I'm Dr. Bruce. And then for our April incentive for no referrals and branching minds, we had a bouncy house for K through second grade. And then we had skating for third through fifth grade students. Students enjoyed it and had an awesome time with their teachers. Next slide. Then for the month of May, we had the fourth grade tea party over at the high school. The girls got to dress up, look nice, feel good about themselves, and have a tea party over at the high school, which they enjoyed, as you see in the picture. Next slide. And then for our boys, while the girls were over having the tea party, the boys were having an empowerment session with some of our former alumni from Warrensville, also some of the educators within Warrensville, and that was a great experience for the boys to learn and see where men can go and grow, even from the city of Warrensville. Next slide. Then we have 386 scholars who received no referrals and branching mind all year, almost 50% of our scholars, which shows PBIS work. Next slide. And then we have some pictures of our third graders who were no referrals all year. And then next slide is of our fourth graders who received their certificates, and the same thing. Next slide. And this is just to show, and it goes to show that PBIS improves our academic. And if you go to the next slide, you will see our reading data. If you notice, in Tier 3, we went from 36% to 22%. Tier 2, we went from 52% to 35%. And Tier 1, from 12% to 44%. So if you look at that triangle, window 1, and most recent, you see we tried to flip that triangle upside down, and we increased the green and decreased the red. Next slide. And in our mathematics, the same thing. You see our green increase and our red decrease a great amount. Next slide. But last but not least, one more slide. We applied for the bronze recognition, and guess what? We can do it because we got Tiger Pride.
All right. That's right.
Any questions?
That's an excellent presentation.
On that. So you guys make me want to come back into education. You know? I used to be the secretary at the elementary school, and it was things like this that used to get me excited about coming to work every day. So as someone who worked there, I gotta believe that the kids are excited to come to school every day. And for me as a parent, that was the one thing that I always wanted, was for my kids to, yes, get a good education, but I wanted them to enjoy going to school. So I want to thank you guys for the presentation and just for being so energetic and excited about education in general. It's a great presentation.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all very much. All right, now I think I'm safe to go to the next section. We can have a motion. I mean, we've had a lot of good presentations today, a lot of good information shared. And I think one of the things that I took from it is when the kids can still have fun and still learn. In fact, they probably do a much better job learning when they're enjoying what they're doing. So it is so refreshing to see the level of excitement in our district again.
I agree.
Did you do that? Okay. All righty. We are going to move on with the agenda. If I can please have a motion on the floor to approve by consent agenda items 2.1 through 2.5 of the treasurer's report and financial recommendations.
Madam Chair, I move that we accept as a consent agenda items 2.1 through 2.5.
Thank you. May I have a second?
I second.
Thank you. Board, the floor is open for comments or questions. Hearing none, Dr. Rock, can you please call the roll?
Mrs. Newman,
Yes.
Mr. Freeman,
Yes.
Mrs. Gator,
Yes.
Mr. Roberts,
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell.
Yes, motion passes 5-0. Next on the agenda, we need a motion on the floor to approve by consent agenda superintendent's recommendations and presentations for board action administrative staff. And this will be for items 3.1 through 3.3.
Madam Chair, I move that we accept as a consent agenda items 3.1 through 3.3.
Thank you. May I have a second?
I second.
It is been moved and properly seconded, and I am going to open the floor and hand the mic over to Mr. Jolly.
Right, so I appreciate that. At this time, we do have 3.1, which is the resignation of Dr. Tamir Kaber. Publicly, I'd just like to thank her for her 7 years of service to our district. As I stated when we had a meeting yesterday, DLT meeting, that Dr. Kaber gave her blood, sweat, and tears for our district. I am truly appreciate serving with her. Our progress and where we are today. She's a major contributor, organizer. Whatever accolades I can give, she's been part of it. I am very thankful. I'm very proud of the opportunity that she has coming for her. I believe that our district has prepared her for this opportunity. I think that we have an opportunity to share the Warrensville way across now in Akron, that people will be able to see the work that's been done here. She'll be able to really enhance our work and show our work in a different light. I appreciate the board when we first came, allowing me to hire her in that position because as you can see, the work and our teamwork has evolved us to this point. Also say to the board that our district is very small, and we don't have a lot of places for people to go, and people will outgrow us and move on to new places. But part of our plan has always been to have succession plans and have people in place to replace people as they go fly. The person who I'm recommending not to replace Dr. Caver, but in another position, which is the Director of Curriculum and Instruction, is Ms. Roxanne Lozar. Ms. Lozar has been with us, I think, a month after Dr. Caver came. She's been with us the entire time. She's seen the foundation built. She was her hands were in the foundation. She worked, her blood, sweat, and tears was also spilled here to get us to where we are. So every program, every initiative, every book adoption, every curriculum item that we've done, Roxanne has had her hands in. She's touched. She actually implemented those things. So in the natural progression, as Dr. Caver goes to fly, we have someone in place that can continue to work. We don't have to start over. We don't have to go find someone who doesn't know our curriculum products, doesn't know our book adoptions, doesn't know our hundreds and thousands of dollars worth of grants, millions of dollars worth of grants. We have a person who can step in and move and continue to move us forward. So with pride, but also with, sadness, I asked the board to accept the resignation of Dr. Caver, and also with pride and joy, I asked the board to accept the recommendation to appoint Mrs. Lozar as Director of Curriculum Instruction. Also on this resignation, we have Vicki Pbis. She has been selected to be the principal of Maple Heights Middle School. So again, that's another person from our district going to fly in another place, which has opportunity for her. Being very as small as we are, we don't have a lot. But again, I would say this publicly: our commitment is to grow our own. Every position is not for everybody. One of the gifts that we have, that I believe that I have, is putting people in positions so that they can soar, in positions that they can be successful in. And as you can see, and there's some other things that we'll be announcing soon, that everyone who we put in these positions have went on and soared in other places or soared here. Again, I ask for the trust of the district or the board that I'll continue to make good choices and decisions on who is placed in what position and recommendations for you to approve. And understanding that oftentimes people don't understand or know why things happen. But everything happens for a reason. And these reasons, I think, because I believe that this board has been based on being honest, being truthful, being respectful of all, trying to do what's best for everybody. And we've committed to that since I've been here. Haven't done anybody wrong. Have not went after anybody or tried to fire people or mistreat people, but always tried to help, support, build. It's been good and bad times. But at the end of the day, the best interest is what's in the best interest of the students, the district, and then also on a professional side, putting people in position so that they can grow and soar. So with that, I expect we will have more changes. I think that, of course, it's been 7 years. It's a long time to keep people. And I think it's time for some people to go. I really do. I think it's time that they should go soar somewhere else. I was talking to somebody and I said that this situation in Warrensville is a special situation because you have all people in the city and school district that are committed to the kids in the community. That's not everywhere. Everywhere don't have a city council board, a city council in 3 cities that's committed to the school district, senior citizens that's 100% on board members who all have vested interests. Everybody don't have that. So in this perfect storm, I think we made this look easy to people. I think it looks very easy to people, not understanding all the work, all the things Ms. Gator, even to get me here, had to go through, all the things that go on behind the scenes, all the meetings and all the conversations and all the negotiations and all the things to get us to this place where we are today. So I say that to say that I'm very pleased and blessed to be here. I think that as people soar away, I think this foundation that we provided them will give them a foundation to understand that it's not perfect, but it's the way things can go if things are done in the correct manner and fashion. And I think that we will continue to find people who share the mission and vision of us of doing what's best for students. And that's, just looking at everybody, not color, race, gender, but looking at people as souls that need to be filled. And as we fill the souls, they will be successful. And I think there will be people who are not attracted to that, but there always will be people who are attracted to that type of work. And regardless of the contract, I appreciate the board tonight considering the increase in the contract or the pay. Because again, we want to be competitive. That's something that we've been talking about for years of trying to get there. And now we have the resources. But just understanding that this place is one that it's not about titles or accolades. It's about the work. It's about the heart. It's about the hard work that we try to do every day. And I think sometimes get lost in the mess of people. And people are messy. And people don't respect the hard work that I think that we continue to try to do. So I think, and I know this is a special place to work here in this city because things align together with the whole community coming together for the best interest of the students. Over $100 million of investments. Just everything came together at the right time. And with that said, I appreciate you guys considering the two recommendations today. We don't have any time to go backwards. Ms. Lozar has been prepared. She's been in the mix from the beginning, and it's her time. So that's why I'm making a recommendation for her tonight.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely.
So before that, I just would like to present Dr. Caver with a token of appreciation. From the Board of Education, just a certificate of excellence for 7 years of dedicated and committed service to our district.
I'll make it short and sweet to ensure that I don't get too emotional. But I will say that my departure is bittersweet, and I do thank the board as well as Superintendent Jolly for giving me this opportunity to serve the children of Warrensville Heights for the past 7 years. It has truly, truly been a blessing. I have been humbled by this position. I've also learned a lot. I have definitely grown and developed in many different ways. And I am also excited to showcase my skills and talent and be able to showcase the work that we've done here in Warrensville and take it to another level in a larger district. So thank you once again. Warrensville will always be my home. And I can thank you all more for the opportunity and for recognizing me tonight. So thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Sure. Ms. Lozar, did you want to come?
You haven't voted.
Yeah,
You want to do a
vote.
vote?
Yeah.
All right. Dr. Rock, so we're going to keep moving, and if you can call the roll, and then Ms. Lozar, if you can come and say a few words.
Mr. Freeman,
Yes.
Mrs. Gator,
Yes.
Mrs. Moomin,
Yes.
Mr. Roberts,
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell.
Yes, motion passes 5-0. Come on up and say a few words. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Yay.
Thank you so much. I am truly honored to be able to serve the district at this capacity, and I'm very grateful for the leadership of Mr. Jolly and Dr. Caver to prepare me for this new journey, and I'm just really excited to continue moving the district to climb to the top because I know that we have it and we will get there. So I'm just really proud to be a Tiger. So thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you.
More than welcome.
All righty. As we move forward, we are at item 4. If I can please have a motion to approve by consent agenda superintendent's recommendations and presentations for board action certificated staff, and that's going to be for items 4.1 through 4.11.
Madam Chair, I'd like to move item number 4 on tonight's agenda, the superintendent's recommendation for certification for board action certified staff, looking for items 4.1 through 4.11.
Thank you. May I have a second?
I second.
Thank you. Board, are there any questions before we move forward with the vote?
I'd just like to speak on the new salary scale. I just appreciate the board considering that. This is a market now that everybody is hiring. This will provide us an opportunity to raise our pay to being very competitive. As our administrators come off contracts, they'll move to the new scale. So we have, I think, 21 people this year that will be moving to the new scale.
Okay.
So it is very appreciative that we're able to do this at this time, which again helps us retain or attract premium talent. So thank you.
Absolutely.
Do the call?
Mm-hmm.
Mrs. Gator,
Yes.
Mrs. Moomin,
Yes.
Mr. Freeman,
Yes.
Mr. Roberts,
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell.
Yes, motion passes 5-0. Next on our agenda, we're at section 5. If we can please have a motion to approve by consent agenda superintendent's recommendations and presentations for board action classified staff. And that's going to cover items 5.1 through 5.11.
Madam Chair, I move that we accept as a consent agenda items, did you say 5.1?
1 through 5.11.
Got you, through 5.11. That's what I thought. I just want to make sure.
Thank you. May I have a second?
I second.
Thank you. It's been moved in second. Board, are there any questions? Mr. Jolly, any comments?
No,
All
ma'am.
right. Dr. Rock, can you please call the roll?
Mrs. Moomin,
Yes.
Mr. Freeman,
Yes.
Mrs. Gator,
Yes.
Mr. Roberts,
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell.
Yes, motion passes 5-0. All righty, we're at section 6, and if we can please have a motion to approve by consent agenda superintendent's recommendations and presentation for personnel and programs. And this is going to take us items 6.1 through 6.12.
Madam Chair, I'd like to move tonight's item, consider agenda superintendent's recommendations, presentation for personnel and programs, looking for items 6.1 to 6.1.
Thank you. May I have a second?
I second.
Thank you very much. It's been moved and properly seconded. Board, are there any questions on this section? Thank you. Hearing none, Dr. Rock, can you please call the roll?
Mr. Freeman,
Yes.
Mrs. Gator,
Yes.
Mrs. Moomin,
Yes.
Mr. Roberts,
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell.
Yes, motion passes 5-0. All righty. We had a pretty robust meeting tonight. We don't have any unfinished business. Dr. Rock, do we have any correspondence?
No, we do not.
All right, for announcements, I know, Mr. Dowling, I'm sure you want to announce tomorrow's event.
Yeah, so tomorrow's the last day of school for all students. Also tomorrow is our graduation, 6:30 at the Early Childhood Center. So we look forward to our first major event at the Early Childhood Center. I believe Jonathan was there getting it set up or helping set up today. So it should look like an auditorium tomorrow. We took down the religious stuff. We also have our first, we put the sign up, so our sign is up outside of it, so it says Early Childhood Center.
Yay.
So very excited about the Early Childhood Center opening up. Not officially opening, but we started to use it more frequently. So I don't have an update on the work that's going to be done yet. Jason is working on the work currently. So I'm very excited about where we're going. We have a lot going on also with the construction. I have a meeting tomorrow about what's going on with construction, so I'll have more at our next meeting. But I do know that there's drywall going up in the building also. Then also next Wednesday night, meeting with Highland Hills. Anybody wants to attend, Highland Hills has some concerns about the construction. I did send the board emails about that. We will have our construction manager there. We'll also have our owner's rep, myself, and we'll go over the plan and share with them what's going on for the summer.
Are we going to be here or?
It's going to be
at
in
the
Highland
City Hall?
Hills City Hall. So we'll be there discussing the plan. So that's pretty much all the updates. Summer school starts June 6th. June 6th, so summer school will be starting June 6th at the elementary school. The YMCA will be using John Dewey for a summer camp. So we'll have John Dewey being used for summer camp in the YMCA. I mean, WES for our summer program.
Awesome. Just one announcement I'd like to share with the audience. We are moving into our summer season, so instead of 2 meetings a month, we will move to 1 meeting a month for the month of June and for July. And so our June meeting will be on Wednesday, June 24th at 6:30. And again, we do invite the public to come here and join us in person. If nothing else, if we can please have a motion on the floor to enter into executive session. This will be item 10.1, to consider the purchase of property for public purposes or for the sale of property at competitive bidding if premature disclosure of information would give an unfair competitive or bargaining advantage to a person whose personal private interest is adverse to the public interest.
Tracy.
Madam Chair, I'd like to,
Hold up,
to-
Ray, hold up a minute. Did we do 12? I
Yes.
thought we stopped at 11. Mimi, did you stop at 11?
No, it was 12.
I didn't call.
It was 12.
Oh,
It
okay.
was 12.
All right, I didn't.
Madam
That's
Chair, I'd
okay.
like to go-
Huh?
That's okay.
Okay,
It was 12. I said 512.
okay.
I'm sorry, Ray, go ahead.
Madam Chair, I'd like to go into item 10.1, enter into executive session for the items that you had read.
May I have a second?
I second.
Thank you. We are going to go into executive session. There won't be any voting.
No voting, no
So
voting.
as we come out, we will then go into full adjournment. So if you want to hang on as we're back discussing, if not, you are free to go. And we do want to thank you for attending tonight's meeting. And hopefully we'll see a lot of folks tomorrow as we go through the commencement parade through the city to celebrate the graduates of 2022.
All right.
Everybody have a wonderful evening.
All right. We're going to do it here, we're going to